Hey, expert investors, Paul here. Today we're going to talk about the power of multifamily properties, and I'm going to teach you this lesson by telling you the story of my first fourplex purchase. So if you are a real estate investor and you're looking to step up your game and get into some multifamily, multi-unit properties, apartment buildings, this lesson is going to be very important for you. If you are an aspiring investor looking to get started, you might get started with a condo or a smaller single family or duplex type of property, but this is where you want to end up. So pay attention closely here. And if you're already a multifamily investor, you definitely want to know about how to spot underperforming properties and maximize their value. That's what we're going to learn about today, is spotting underperforming properties and maximizing their value. So I bought my first fourplex back in 2012. That's just about 8 years ago now. And the price I paid for 4 two-bedroom units in one building was $700,000. Back in the day, trust me, in 2012, that was a lot of money. A lot of money. People were laughing, but they're not laughing now, I promise. So why did I buy a $700,000 fourplex that was only producing $3,720 a month in rent? Well, it was underperforming, and there's a method to the madness. There was a way I could increase the rents and pull out some of my equity so I could own this property without any of my own money in there. And let me show you how I got there. So when I bought this place, unit 1 was generating $1,000 a month, unit 2 $960, unit 3 $900, and unit 4 $860 a month, for a total of $3,720 a month. And within 2 years, through natural attrition of the tenants moving out, and I actually asked 1 or 2 tenants to leave on their own terms, and they did within 6 months. It took me about 22 months, and I was able to increase the rents dramatically here like this. So unit 1 went to $1,500, unit 2 went to $1,350, unit 3 went to $1,200, and unit 4 went to $1,200. Now, what does that equal? We got 12, 24, 39, 49, 52.50. Okay, so our rents on a monthly basis went from $3,720 a month to $52.50 in about 22 months. That's a difference of $1,830 a month times 12. Give me 3 seconds here, and we're at 18,360. 18,360. So we were able to increase the monthly rent by $1,830 a month, and if you multiply that by 12, we were able to increase the annual gross rental income by $18,360 a month, or sorry, $18,360 per year. That's how much extra gross rent we were producing by making these rent increases. So how did I get all my money back out of this building? Let me show you. So if we take, I'm going to move over to this side here. If we take $18,360 per year in increased rent and divide that by the cap rate of 0.06%, we end up with $300,000 in extra gross value. Now, you must be wondering, what is a cap rate and why did I use 6%? Well, that's what I prepared for you right here. So, the cap rate. A cap rate stands for capitalization rate. It's just a fancy term to describe the relationship between the net operating income of a property and its purchase price. It's a way to indicate value for a property that has multiple units for our apartment building. So what a net operating income, or an NOI for short, is very simply the gross rents. So the gross rents minus the operating expenses. So your operating expenses would be stuff like property taxes, insurance, any utilities, basic management costs, cutting the grass, stuff like that. So your gross rents minus some operating costs would give you a net income. And then you take that net income and you divide it by the purchase price, and it would give you a ratio of 0.06. In this example, just for an example purposes, I'm showing you a $500,000 property. If it had $30,000 in net operating income, it would give you a ratio of 0.06 or 6%. So when we're shopping for multifamily properties, a common theme you'll find is what is the cap rate of this area? So for example, in Toronto right now, the biggest city close to where I live, a few minutes away, a cap rate, a normal cap rate is about 4%, which is very low. Okay, so back in 2012, we were buying at a 6% prevailing cap rate. So if I'm able to increase the annual gross rents by $18,360, what I do is I divide it by the 6% ratio, and it gives me this $300,000 number. And what that means is, in theory, is that my property is now worth $300,000 more than what I paid for it because I've increased the rents. You see, what's so powerful about multifamily properties is you don't need to renovate them to increase the value. You don't need to make massive renovations to the units or the property. It helps in order to increase the rents and provide a better unit, but it's not necessary, because the most important piece of value in a multifamily property is its income. People buy multifamily properties, apartment buildings, for the income, not because they look pretty. So it's different than a flip. So if you can increase the income on a multifamily property, you've automatically increased the value. It's the same as taking an ugly home in a nice area and making it look pretty. You've increased the value. But instead, in multifamily, the real value comes from its income. And this cap rate, this ratio, is a balancing number on how we establish value. So by doing this, by increasing the rents, annual rents, dividing it by the cap rate value or the cap rate ratio, I'm able to increase the property by $300,000. So what actually happened? So 2 years later, after I had done this, I went back to the bank and I said, hey, Mr. Bank, I've increased the value of my property. I've increased the rents. Here are all the new leases. Here are my operating statements showing all this extra income I'm generating. I want to refinance the property. Refinancing the property means I want to renegotiate the mortgage, increase the amount of debt I have on the property so I can pull my original seed capital back. You see, when I bought this property, I had to put a down payment down. $700,000 times 20% down payment. I had to put $140,000 down, plus some closing costs, another 15 to 20,000. Lawyers' fees, land transfer tax, plus a little bit of money to fix some of the units. So I was into this property for about 200 grand. So what the bank said is, okay, we'll refinance the property, but we have to do an appraisal. Okay, we have to bring in a licensed professional appraiser to establish the new value. We understand that you've increased the rents, and we're willing to look at a refinance, but we want you to pay for an appraisal. No problem. I paid $1,200 for a new appraisal, and the value came in at $900,000 was the new value of the property. So it wasn't quite, $300,000 like I had described, but it's still good. I've increased the value by 200 grand, just in two short years. So what I was able to do is get a new mortgage at 80% of this value, which would be, what's 80% of this? 20 would be 180, and then 180 minus this is 720 grand. Okay, so the new mortgage is at 720,000. Okay, and my original mortgage would have been 140 minus this at 560. We got 40, which means I was able to pull out. So realistically, I was able to pull out $180,000 from this property by subtracting the new mortgage, the higher new mortgage, from the previous old mortgage, and essentially being able to take out not exactly all my capital, but 90% of it. Okay, now I get to own this property without any of my own money in there, and still producing good cash flow because I've increased the rents. So if you can continue to do this with properties, it means you can put money in and then take money out and continue to reinvest it. without your money being sitting in the property for long periods of time. Now, that's not such a bad thing when you think about how real estate appreciates and stuff. But if you want to acquire a big portfolio and make big changes in your life really fast, and live that kind of lifestyle, exit the 9 to 5 grand, achieve that financial independence, if you can get your money in and get your money out faster, it's going to help you build a bigger portfolio and get to where you want to go a lot faster. Okay, Robert Kiyosaki talks about this all the time in some of his books, and it can be done in real life. This looks really complicated and there's a lot of moving parts, but really it's just about finding underperforming values, increasing the rents, getting that refinance done. Even if it takes you a couple of years, it's worth the effort, because it's one of the most powerful strategies you can do for income properties out there. So I hope that makes sense. If you have any questions, leave a comment, shoot us an email, and we'll be in touch.